Data versus Democracy, Dr. Chris Schaefer explores the depth of our social media-driven society and the startling reality of how social media has impacted society, threatening modern democracy. The author outlines our means of taste from prehistoric times of scarcity to that of the 21st century times of abundance, and how we as a species struggle to come in terms of abundance, especially in regards to information. Schaefer also does an excellent job analyzing the social media model, discussing how if a product is free, we are in fact the product, and the real product for sale is simply our attention. As a result of this modeling, our attention and activity are heavily tracked for social media and online tracking purposes. Unfortunately, however, the means in which these are tracked tend to feed into our addictive personalities and addictive tendencies. Due to the amount of data through terms of agreements of cookies, algorithms, and things like that, we have personalized accounts that are focused on our attention, such as shopping, likes, shared pages, things of that sort. This allows us to match with products that capture our attention before we can even say no. This division of our attention prevents us from thinking critically and puts us in a state of continuous partial attention. This is increasingly dangerous if this is the state of our mind when we're receiving news. Unchecked, this can lead us to becoming victims or even promoters of propaganda. Schaefer next lays out several real-life examples of how social media has algorithms behind them that can lead to social awareness campaigns, election interference, and even political uprisings. In response, I agree with the overarching premise that social media has its purpose and provides us with a way of connecting with distant friends and family. However, I feel that if our current trend continues to stay unchecked, social media can cause generational type damage to both individuals and society as a whole. The problem with social media is that it exacerbates mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. This is caused by a variety of reasons, but research has shown it's primarily tied to our addictive tendencies, that we associate social media with pleasure. As we log into our social media accounts, we receive more dopamine because social media is tied to pleasure. And as we get more positive feedback in terms of likes, follows, things of that sort, we continue to get that positive feedback. In fact, researchers are starting to analyze trends in addictive tendency and are matching social media addiction to that of individuals suffering from substance abuse problems. Now, you link this with current real-life situations, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. The most applicable and real-time case study we currently have is the COVID-19 pandemic and how social media has impacted the pandemic. Though not much research has been published at this point, preliminary articles are suggesting that social media had a significant impact and potentially negative impact on individuals' psychological and mental health well-being. Now, fast forward to 2020, when the single hope that we had was a vaccine to be able to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. However, because of social media, fear and uncertainty is cast doubt on what we all wished for simply a year ago. According to NPR, analyzing NewsWhip's data, the top 10 engaged stories on Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter from January 7th to the 20th involve stories dealing with the vaccine. And at times, that story went up, the top story increased up to 25% as the stories were coming out of vaccines related to deaths. Lastly, it's been documented that United States adversaries are actively seeking to undermine COVID-19 vaccines by Moderna and Pfizer by spreading propaganda on all social media platforms. So what's next? How do we fix this social and political dilemma? The answer is simple. We have to focus on what's real. We have to focus on what really makes us happy. We have to focus on what really gives us endorphins. We cannot simply live life anymore by staring at a phone screen. We need to exercise and get endorphins. We have to get outside. We have to even eat great food without staring at our screen. And lastly, we also need to think critically of what we're seeing on social media. We have to fact check. We have to ensure that what we're spreading and what we're sharing is actually true. And we have to make sure we're not victims of propaganda or even instigators of propaganda. Lastly, we need to analyze our predisposition bias. We can't simply look at an individual because they don't necessarily agree with our beliefs and rule them out. We have to look at ourselves first and then be nice to each other. The problem right now is the foundation of democracy is being attacked, and it can crumble from our adversaries. And totalitarianism can win by simply firing a few online social media posts.